Assalamu alaikum, how are you guys doing? I hope you guys doing great. And first of all, I want to apologize that I haven't uploaded any video since a long time. Well, my final exam was ongoing, so I didn't want to mess with it. So I just took a break for the examination purpose, and finally now it's end. And I will try my best to upload video regularly since now. Okay, so what we're gonna do in this video is we're gonna create this 3D view using three.js. So without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first of all, what you have to do, I have created a template for you guys. So this is a template for three.js and node.js. So if you want to follow along with this tutorial, you need to have installed the node.js. So make sure you have it. So once you have installed the node.js, you need to clone this repository on any directory of your computer. So here I'm cloning this. So first of all, git clone, and okay, there you go. Okay, so I have cloned it in here. So first of all, let's rename it 360 view. Okay, so once we have this, what you have to do, you have to open this directory in your favorite code editor. So I'm using VS Code as my code editor, so let me open it on VS Code. Okay, so once you have opened the code inside of a preferred code editor, so what you have to do, okay, then you have to open a terminal or a CMD in that same directory, and then what you have to do, you have to say npm init and -y. So it will initialize your this whole project as npm package. And then what you have to do, you have to install few packages which we are gonna need in this video. So let's say npm install express, and then let's say npm install 3. Okay, great. So once you install those packages, express and three.js, then what you have to do, you have to open the package.json file, and inside of this package.json file, okay, inside of this script, what you have to do, you have to say start node app.js. so let's say npm start. So whenever we have said npm start, that means this is start command, so it's running this command node app.js. so what it's saying, visit localhost 3000. okay, so let me go. So there you go, this is the template which I have created. Don't worry, I'll walk through the code, and we have to build this 3D view. Okay, so how we can do this? First of all, let's get back to our code editor, and inside of this public directory you have style.css, you have index.html and client.js. okay, so here's the thing, if you want to understand this whole thing clearly, if you want to understand this whole code briefly, you can watch my previous video about three.js, and in this video I'm just gonna go quickly through this code. First of all, let me just remove the unnecessary code which we don't need in this video. We don't need the geometry, the sphere. okay, we don't need this sphere thing for this video. okay, we're gonna delete it. okay, and we have to delete these two lines where we are animating the spheres. okay, so now if I hit save and refresh, so we have this blank canvas, and we have to do this thing inside of this blank canvas. okay, so let me just explain this code quickly, and if you want to understand this code in briefly in detail, then you can watch my previous video about three.js where I have explained that all those things, that how is this working together. okay, so first of all, we don't need this console logs. Let's remove them. okay, so first of all, what we are doing, let's start with the server, that how we have made this server. So first of all, what we did, we import the express.js which we just installed earlier. and then we are making an instance of that express.js, and then these are the middleware. We are setting the static folder that basically I'm saying that I want to serve the public directory, and then what we're giving is we are giving the path of the three.js. So if you go to this path, node modules /3 and /build, you can see that three.module.js, you can find this three.module.js inside of this build directory. So this is the part what we're giving basically in this line, and then next what we're giving the path of that file, of that utility files. Utility file means this orbit control and this stat.module.js. So all those files we have inside of this JSM folder or the JSM directory. So that is what we are giving in this line. And then we are giving the port number, that where we want to serve our folder, and then the address, simple console log. Okay, and then if I go ahead and move to our client.js, what I have did in here, simply I just imported the three.js from this build directory, and then I have imported the stats. So if you are confused about the stat, let me show you. This is the thing, this is the blue thing you see at the top left corner. So this is the stats. Okay, this shows the APS, and then finally we need this orbit control. So we need the orbit control so that we can move around this, we can look around the 3D view. Okay, so then let me move to the index.html, and as we can see, this is the simple HTML code. Okay, just ignore this script tag for now, I'll get back to it later. So if you look inside of this body tag, what we have, we have this canvas, which the class name is WebGL, and a script tag. This script tag is connecting with the client.js. Okay, and now as we imported some external modules like orbit.control.js, you have to map this import in order to use this orbit control. You won't be able to use orbit control if you don't map it. And how you can do this, you have to map this inside of this HTML file. As you can see, this is script tag. The type of script tag is import map, and it's an object, and inside of this we have another object. Okay, so first value is imports, and inside of this import value, input key, we have another object, and that object is just a path of our three.js and the path of our orbit control. Okay, in this line we just select the WebGL canvas, this canvas. Okay, we just selected it, and then we have add the stats at top left corner, and then we have created a scene. So what a scene is, so whatever you see inside of this canvas is basically inside of the scene. So scene is like a container where you're gonna put all your elements which you're gonna create through this three.js. So and then what we're doing, we're setting up a camera, and camera we are using perspective camera, and this perspective camera takes 4 value. One is FOV or field of view, the aspect ratio of your browser window, and this is how you can get the perfect aspect ratio, and a near value and a far value. So near value is if the distance between your object and your camera is less than this unit, your object won't be visible, and the far value is if the distance between your object and the camera is more than this value, also your object won't be visible. And then we are using the perspective camera, and then we are setting up a position for our camera, and then we are adding the camera inside of our scene, and then we are setting up a renderer. So what this renderer basically going to do, so the renderer basically going to render everything for us, and then we are setting the size of the renderer according to our window height and window size, and then we are setting a pixel ratio according to that device pixel ratio. And now it's come to the orbit control. We are using the orbit control to move around, to look around the scene. So we are using this render function to render our scene. Okay, so basically it's using the WebGL renderer which we have created earlier. As you can see, this is the renderer, and we are using that renderer to render our scene. Okay, then comes to the animate function. if we want to animate our scene, or if you want to update your scene in every frame per second, you have to use this animate function. And if you want to animate your scene or your object, you can also use this animate function. And then we have another function, window resize. So what this function is doing, let me show you. If I increase or decrease the window size, as you can see, our scene is responsive according to that window size. This is what we are doing using this window resize function. And after then we are just calling that window resize function once there I have an event called resize. Again, if you want to understand this code in briefly, I would recommend you my previous video which I have created, and you will get a better understanding about this code in that video. And in style.js, simply you just have this universal selector and the body, which is overflow hidden. That's it. So first of all, what we need a cube. And we need a cube is because we want to wrap a texture around that cube so that we can get a 3D view. Okay, so in order to create a cube, what you have to do, there's a const cube geometry. So first of all, we have to define the geometry of the cube. So to do this, let's set new 3.box geometry. And this box geometry takes 3 arguments. So let's give all of them as 100. And next, as we define the geometry of our cube, then we have to define the material of our cube. So we're going to use texture to create the 3D view. So first of all, let's create a texture loader. And to do this, let's let loader is equal to new 3.texture loader. Okay, and then as we are going to use multiple textures, so let's create, let's say, texture array. So we're going to create an array so that we can hold multiple texture for our cube. Okay, so now we are going to need some texture. So let me just go here and let me just create a folder called model, and inside of this folder I'm going to just paste the texture folder, which you're going to get this texture folder with my code. I'll provide the link of this starter file and the full code in the description. Check the description, you'll get the code and the textures. So inside of this we have these textures. Okay, so let me just rename these textures quickly. Okay, so I have renamed everything. So I have renamed each and every textures. So if you want to use textures, we have to store each and every texture inside of a variable. So let's say font texture. So before storing this texture inside of these variables, we are going to load the texture. So let's say loader.load, and then we have to give the path of that texture. So in my case, my texture is inside of this model directory. So let's say model, and then this directory, and the name of the texture is front.jpg. Now let's just duplicate this couple of times, and now you just have to change the name of this front, and let's say back. Similarly, change the name for each and every textures. Okay, so once you are done, so you have to push each and every texture inside of this texture array. So let's say texture array dot push, and we're going to push each and every textures as a material. Okay, so let's say new 3.mesh basic material, and we're gonna map the texture. It's a front texture. Okay, so what this line is doing is taking the front texture and mapping the texture in the front side of our cube. So in cube we have 6 sides, and for each side we have one texture. Okay, so let me just duplicate this few times, and simply you just have to change this texture, back texture, top texture, sorry, texture, and then bottom we need another one, left texture, and then right texture. Okay, so our geometry for cube is ready, and our text material or the texture is also ready. Okay, so now we have to create a mesh. The mesh basically is a combination of our geometry and our material. So let's say const, let's say skybox equal new 3.mesh, and this mesh take 2 parameters. First one is the geometry, so this is the geometry, so let's give it, and then it takes a material. So in our case we have an array of material. This is the texture array. Okay, we have an array of material, so we have to give this texture array. Okay, so in this texture array what we have texture for each side of our cube. Okay, and then all we have to do, we have to say scene.add skybox. So we are adding the skybox inside of our scene. Okay, so now if I refresh, we can't see nothing, is because if I just zoom out a bit, there you go, this is our cube, and in every side we have one texture. Okay, but the problem is that our texture is outside of this cube and we need the texture inside of this cube. And how we can do this, let's come here and let's add a for loop for let I is equal to 0, and if I less than texture array dot length and I plus plus. Okay, it's a simple for loop. Okay, then next what we're going to do, texture array and the index number is I dot site equal to 3 dot So what this for loop is doing is taking each and every texture inside of this texture array and is setting the side property to the back side. So that means our texture is now outside of this. So texture, as you can see, is now outside of this cube. And now if we do this, if we set the side property to back side, it's gonna set the texture inside of this cube. So we're gonna see a 3D view. So if I refresh, there you go, this is our 3D view. But still we have some problem like this. If you look at the top, it's not aligned properly, and similarly if you look at the bottom, it's also not aligned properly. So the simplest way to fix this problem is just go to this texture folder, and the problem is inside in our top texture and the bottom texture, right? So open this top texture and simply rotate this image and refresh. It didn't fix. Let's do it another time. Rotate it, refresh, nothing, it didn't align properly. Okay, again rotate, and now if I refresh, there you go, our top texture is now perfectly aligned with other texture. But similarly we have to fix the bottom one as well. So let's go to bottom texture, open it and simply rotate it. Okay, refresh. Okay, there you go, our top texture and bottom texture are fixed now. They are aligned with other textures. Okay, so now the other problem is, if you zoom out, as you can see, it's zooming out a lot. We don't want that much. Okay, so to fix this problem, what we are going to do, after this controls, what we're going to do, controls dot minimum distance is going to be 10 and controls dot maximum distance is going to be 40. Okay, so if I now refresh, and now we can zoom out more than this. Okay, and also we can zoom in more than this. Okay, so we just set a limitation of zooming in and zooming out. And now if you want, you can also experiment with your FOV or field of view. Let me set it to 35, and if I refresh, okay, so it doesn't make that much of difference if you don't yeah, maybe I have this distortion here. So if I set it back to 45 and refresh, maybe 35 was good, or 45, I don't know. Let me see. Maybe 35 was good. Let's see 35. Okay, so now the distortion is, I guess, is less than 45. Okay, so there you go, guys. Our 3D view is complete. So now what you can do is just can try different textures and have fun of this 3D view. So this is it for today, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching this video. Take care. Bye bye. Tata.